When planning for the future, one of the most important estate planning documents you'll sign is the power of attorney. But the tricky part is it's not all the same, right? There's the springing power of attorney versus the immediate power of attorney. And today, this video will break down the difference in both, the pros and cons, how each is used, and what you need to know. Welcome into Complete Estate Planning. I am Ben George with Nick Rosenbauer, attorney at the Rosenbauer Law Office, and we got another good show for you today. And Nick, we're going to get into power of attorneys, and I know we've talked about that, and I know it's an important topic. You've stressed that to me in the past, but I don't ever remember you talking about the springing power of attorney. At least maybe I blocked it out along the way. I don't know, but I feel like I'm going to learn something new today.
Yeah, so we all know, or at least our listeners who've been with us for a long time, understand that the importance of a financial power of attorney or property power of attorney. But what we'll talk today through is there's a couple different models, if you will, or styles of it, and and what it always ends up boiling down to, if you will, is kind of a difference between, and I guess there's a sliding scale of more security, more, but being more rigid versus, more flexibility. And again, it's not a one size fits all. I personally have some pretty strong bias in this myself. I don't know, Ben, if it would be a good idea for me to let said very strong bias show up in our thing today or not. So I guess, what do you think? Should I put my spin on this or just?
Yeah, I think it's helpful when you lay it out for us, and then you also tell us kind of what you lean towards. I think that's helpful for people that are trying to determine what's the best path. I like to hear your opinion on things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pretty strong one, so to speak. So let's do that at the end.
Okay.
So if anyone doesn't want to hear my spin on it, let's listen all the way to the end and then just cut out right at the end, but get all the details first. But if you're really interested in my very, very biased opinion on this, what do they call that in radio? A teaser? Like stay tuned.
Yeah. A tease for later on. Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, the power of attorney, first off, the type we're referring to is the financial or legal power of attorney, the property power of attorney. This is not something that is applicable for the medical power of attorney. So I just want to kind of square up that confusion. And so the difference between these two financial powers of attorney, the immediate or the springing, it all boils down to when it goes into effect for your power of attorney agent or your decision maker. So it all boils down to the only difference is when your power of attorney agent, your helper, is allowed to step in, when they are sworn in, when they're knighted, when they're given the keys to the house, so to speak. So an immediate one, which you could probably guess, works immediately. So the way an immediate power of attorney works, the minute you sign the document, I sign a power of attorney that says, I name my wife, Alicia, as my power of attorney, then she becomes my power of attorney right away. And people freak out and say, but you're not crazy or incapacitated yet. Doesn't matter. It has nothing to do. There's no activation requirement. There's no delays. My wife is my power of attorney right now, even if I still have all of or most of my marbles, so to speak. So she can handle things right now. It is easy. It is seamless. It is instantaneous. Okay, so we can step in. My wife can do things right away. There's no delays or anything like that. And we'll talk about kind of the activation requirements, if you will, or the steps that have to be followed for the springing one here in a second. But my wife can help me this instant before the ink is even dry. Okay, so if you want immediate, you want right away, no nonsense, that's the way to go. Also, another instance of it being very, very helpful is and this may sound, I don't mean this in a derogatory manner, Ben, although it's probably going to come off that way, is when you have people who are slipping, are getting older, maybe haven't completely lost it yet or are not incapacitated yet, but maybe not firing on all cylinders. Okay, I'm talking people who maybe have early stage Alzheimer's or dementia, are forgetful. You know the type who know what's going on, but man, it would be really nice if you could just make sure mom, you're auditing mom's bills and things like that. So you are not out of it, but someone who's maybe slipping or just mom or dad needs help. Yeah. Right? They need help, although they are not to the point where they've had a stroke or are in a coma, obviously. And like I said, there's no delays if there's an emergency. The downsides to this, Ben, I think it's pretty much one downside. And I think it's very obvious is you are empowering someone right now, and you don't necessarily need the help right now. Okay, so you're giving someone the authority early before it's necessary. Okay, so this is not a situation where you're telling your neighbor, hey, if you ever need to check on our house, here's where there's a place where you can get a spare key. You're giving them a spare key right now. Okay, so there has to be a lot of trust there. And if you don't have a trustworthy person, you got to be careful. There's a comfort level too. There are people who are just not comfortable with someone having power of attorney and being able to sign checks for them right now. And it doesn't matter if it's logical or not. If you lose sleep over it and you're worrying about it, we're not doing a good job. Okay, creating your plan should make you relaxed and put your mind at ease. It should not stress you out even more after it's done. And so, yeah, you need someone who you are very trusting of, very comfortable with. And I have people who feel like they're giving up control, like they feel like they're basically resigning or being pushed aside, kind of being aged out early. It's not necessarily true. Having a power of attorney doesn't mean you can't still sign checks. Okay, so if I name you, Ben, as my power of attorney, it doesn't mean I can never do anything for myself anymore. It's like a co-signer. I can still do what I want, and you can do what is necessary. So it's like getting a second credit card or a second debit card. It is not an either or. Okay, it's not a zero-sum game. So this is not like taking the keys away from an elderly parent. You're driving, they are not driving anymore. It's like getting an extra set of car keys so either of you can drive. Okay, but psychologically, a lot of people will have that reaction. And again, it's not accurate, but I do want to bring it up because that is something where a lot of people will get uncomfortable and feel like, hey, I didn't think I was ready to be put out to pasture yet. Yeah. But I feel like doing this is just me giving up and I'm gone and I'm on the downward spiral and I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, whether it's logical or not, people feel that way, and that can cause them not to do this. But yeah, that's the immediate power of attorney. And a lot of people don't realize how those work. They say, oh, well, when I'm sick, you step in. Well, for financial power of attorney, if it's immediate, my wife can sign a check right now, even though I'm still okay. I think it's convenient, and I trust my wife.
Yeah.
She wanted to do something, she could anyway. Our trust is joint, so she can get access to everything, even if she's not my power of attorney. It doesn't really matter. I like the convenience, to be honest with you on that one. So people may not think they need it, but what if you're buying or selling a house, you're refinancing, we need to sell the car, and one of you's out of town or on vacation? Here's the thing, Ben. If your wife is your immediate power of attorney, when it's time to renew the tags on the car, you don't have to go to the BMV with her. You can just stay home. Now, she may put a pillow over your head and kill you that night, but legally speaking, you don't have to go. So that's something I want you to be wary of. So there are benefits to it, and there are situations where you want someone to be able to do things for you beyond just when I'm incapacitated.
Right.
There are times when, even though I am, I still have my wits about me, it could be beneficial to have someone and be able to handle things for you. Okay.
Gotcha.
That's the immediate. The springing, there is an extra step, an extra hurdle, an extra hoop to jump through. There's it's like TSA, there's a gate that we have to go through in order to get it done. Most people, if you just ask them on the street, how does a power of attorney work? They would describe a springing power of attorney.
Okay.
Most likely. So this is probably what people are most familiar with, or at least have the idea. So for springing power of attorney, it says that my power of attorney agent, their decision-making authority, does not happen until an event or a trigger happens. So if I sign my power of attorney, my wife is ready. She's first in line. She's not my power of attorney yet. It is usually a situation where my wife can step in once I am incapacitated, but not until then. So in other words, it springs into action. Again, it's a dumb phrase. I didn't invent it. Okay. So if you think it's cheesy and stupid, I agree with you. Don't blame me. If you think it's really clever, then just pretend I invented it. So there's that. It is instead of we're at bat and we have a debit card right now, it is more of saying, hey, if something happens, here's where you go. And I need you to get my debit card, but you can't do anything right now. Okay. So the springing version of that would be I'd sign something that says, I nominate my wife as my power of attorney agent. Her authority begins upon my incapacitation. Something like that. So it is not today. So how does that happen? It's almost always an incapacitation trigger because it is, I can't do it for myself anymore. So that's when I need someone to step in and help, right? And so usually what happens is you get something in writing from one or maybe two medical doctors.
Okay.
That's usually the triggering event because only a medical doctor, really has the expertise to declare you incapacitated. That keeps the agent safe and the person making the power of attorney safe as well, because you don't want a situation where people are saying, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, and then they can't get help. And you also don't want a situation where someone is jumping the gun or, kind of meddling in things before they're supposed to, or kind of bigfooting things and say, yeah, he's losing it. I need to do this. Okay, that's fine, but we need to get something. And normally the way it works, like the way we do ours is in our documents, the definition of incapacitated is when a physician who has examined and is treating this person, writes, puts something in writing, declaring that in their professional medical opinion, they believe this person's unable to handle his or her own affairs. Something to that effect.
Yeah.
Okay. The way it works, and if my wife is my power of attorney, I can't do anything right away. And the way I could do something would be I need to go get a doctor to sign off, say, I've examined Nick Rosenbauer, my professional medical opinion. He's unable to manage his own personal affairs. And so when I go to the bank, I show him the power of attorney, and I also show him, here's the doctor's note that says he's out of it. So now I'm up to bat. Okay, so you have that extra step in order to get done. So pros and cons. Obviously, it's more secure, right? It is safer, it is slower, and it prevents anyone from jumping the gun, from stepping in before they're supposed to. And a lot of people who make powers of attorney, that gives them a comfort, that gives them a peace of mind, right? Because it's something where it's like, it's not that I have to trust you. You are not allowed to be my power of attorney until it is confirmed that I'm out of it. So there is no possibility for abuse, as opposed to, I trust you. Hopefully you hold up your end of the bargain. And then I will say, one, if someone is concerned about funny business or abuse of authority, this is a nice check and balance. It gives people the peace of mind. It combats the concern I talked about before about people feeling like they're checking themselves out early.
Yeah.
Because it's, hey, you don't have anyone. It's still you, and it's only you. And a weird one here, Ben, is if you think there's going to be conflict among the power of attorney agent and other players or other family members, this can give them some plausible deniability. And this is kind of a weird, and again, it all depends on the dynamic of the family. But I've had people say, I trust my son to be my power of attorney. He will do what's right. But he doesn't get along with his brother or sister-in-law, and he doesn't get along, with his sister. And I know they're going to be chirping and accusing him of jumping the gun and meddling in my affairs when I really want his help. But I know he's going to get accused of things, even if he didn't do anything wrong. I know the accusations are coming. And so by doing this, I almost have, it's not his call. It's, hey, the doctor wrote this. Okay. I had to wait for the doctor. This is not me making the call of saying, now is when I think dad needs help, so I'm stepping in. So this is hey, it was up to the doctor. Doctor said he's out of it, so I need to step in. Okay, so it can kind of take it off of the decision maker if there could be negative consequences, and other people could say you jumped in too soon or you're meddling in affairs that you don't belong. So it can give a plausible deny. And that's a weird one. And legally, it shouldn't really bear any weight, but it goes back into keeping the peace or keeping the target off of the back, if you will, of the person who's your power of attorney, the person you're trying to help. Let's not make their life any worse than it has to be. So there's the benefits of it. The downsides, obviously, are issues or hiccups or delays in getting the activation done. So what if we are in an emergency, but we can't get them into the neurologist 1 hour from now?
Yeah.
Maybe it's neurologist is a few weeks out for an appointment. Or what if you're out of town? It's really hard to arrange doctor visits when you're not in town. It's different if you're close by and you can just, hey, Mom, get in the car. We're going to take you to the doctor and have him fill this out. Hey, Mom, I need to fly in from halfway across the country. Okay, so there are logistics of getting it done. And then also, just the hassle of getting into the doctor, things like that. Also, no man's land, kind of the in-between gray area, this is where it can be really rough. Like I mentioned before, the situation where you're not out of it and no one's going to declare you incapacitated because you aren't, but man, you are slipping and man, you could use some help. But, so you're forgetting bills, you're not getting things paid, you're falling for the fake kind of scam emails, and identity theft and things like that. So you're fading, but you are not out of it yet. You know who you are, you know where you are, you know how many kids you have. That middle ground where we could really use some help, but no doctor's going to sign off and declare you incapacitated because you are not yet. Okay, so that's the no man's land is really where you run into trouble. And I'll be honest with you, I guess the flip side of it, or in addition to that, is a lot of doctors clam up. They don't want to be the one to put in their name. They are the person who gave the authority to the son to run rampant on mom's checkbook. And then the son steals all of mom's money. And then the other kids come back and sue the doctor and said, Mom was still okay. Why did you give authority to the son? If you would not have said they were incapacitated, then all of mom's money would still be here. So a lot of them are trying to help, but you will run into situations multiple times where a doctor has been burned in the past and they just don't want to screw with it anymore. So those are the downsides the in-between areas where a springing power of attorney can be harsh.
And I assume, like, once the toothpaste out of the tube, you can't put it back in. Is that the situation?
Well, you can always fire or redo a power of attorney at any point. So I've had people who do springing powers of attorney, maybe because it's their adult kids, but they're young. And they say, well, they're a little young. They're all I got, but they're not quite ready yet, so I don't want any funny business. And then when they get older, they say, kids are full-grown adults. I trust them. Take the guardrails away. And when they need help, I trust them. And whether it's springing or immediate power of attorney, you can always say, I void my old power of attorney, I fire them, and I pick a new person. So, but once the person is incapacitated, they no longer have the mental capacity to create a new power of attorney. Once that happens, it's too late. You can't change it.
All right. So pretty clear differences there, Nick, between the two. So which way do you lean now to get the final payoff here?
Okay. Again, this is my own personal bias, but at least it's an educated bias. I hate springing powers of attorney. 99 times out of 100, they are an absolute inconvenience that gets in the way. Now, there are other ways, I think, to protect from people being worried about the immediate power of attorney just running rampant or screwing with things when you don't need help. You don't have to tell someone that they're immediate power of attorney. If I name my dad or my sister or my brother or my in-laws as power of attorney, I can tell them, hey, if something happens to Alicia and I, you're going to be in charge of things for me. Here's where I keep all my paperwork. But I don't need to tell them, hey, by the way, you actually have the authority to write checks right now. I don't need to say that. Okay? I can just say we have powers of attorney. Here's where it is. If we need help, you know what to do. Here's where you look. And you know what? When my dad or my sister or my brother or my in-laws drive over and go through all of our paperwork and they find the power of attorney, only then will they have a pleasant surprise that they can help today. They don't need to screw with anything else. Okay, so I don't have to give them a power of attorney. Okay, there are other ways to do that because people are afraid, give them power of attorney. I don't want to call my sister or my dad up and say, hey, Dad, you can actually go to Chase Bank and pull out all my money right now. Don't do that. Right? So there are better ways to protect that concern than the springing power of attorney. Now, hey, if I have a catastrophic stroke and I go from fine to out of it, then springing power of attorney is just fine. But if I have any sort of slow decline, I guarantee you there will be a time when I need help, but I cannot get help. You are asking for trouble. If we're out of town, good luck, trying to tell your incapacitated dad or mom to drive themselves to the doctor, and have them fill out a form or do something like that. And good luck if there's an emergency. I hate them in most instances.
Makes sense.
Now, I'll tell you why, because I always get the phone calls from the kids saying, hey, I need to help out mom. But I took it to the bank and the bank says I need a letter from a doctor. The doctor's not going to write that. I have a blind client who mentally is fine. Blind, 90-something years old, can't get around, obviously. Sharp as a tack. Her tongue's even sharper. She's hilarious. I love talking to her. Guess what? No doctor's going to declare her incapacitated. But man, she needs a power of attorney right now. Like, we had a discussion and I said, ma'am, can I be frank with you? I think a springing power of attorney is a terrible idea. And she understood and she agreed. Now, again, there are times, Ben, when a springing power of attorney is the right answer. Most importantly, when you don't have good options. Because I always tell people, if you don't trust them, pick someone better. When they say, I have no one else, this is the best I have, and the best I have is a C- option, okay, understand the problems here or the risks, but we got to work with what we have to make it safe enough that you can at least have a power of attorney. But I would say that situation, that scenario is in the minority. Usually you can find someone you trust, and you don't need to tell them that you can go to the bank right now.
Yeah.
Just tell them, here's where everything is if something happens. I've almost never had a circumstance where I have a client who did a springing power of attorney, and then when I talk to the family when they're fading, if you will, and it's been easy or seamless, unless there was a catastrophic medical event where they had like a stroke that they didn't recover from. There was always a period where you can't help, but dad needs help. So,
gotcha.
So if anyone cares about my personal opinion, there it is. If you don't care, hopefully you logged off about 5 minutes ago. But
well, I think that's helpful just to kind of see where you stand, and you explain your reasons for it. And it is there's a lot of common sense in what you say. So I think a lot of people will follow along with that. But if you want to discuss for yourself, your own situation, again, go to CincinnatiEstatePlan.com. You can book a time to meet with Nick right there. All right, Nick, good breakdown. I learned a lot today, and I think this was very helpful for anyone that's trying to weigh the differences and which route to go. So appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, we'll catch you next time.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by estate planning? The process can seem complex, but it doesn't have to be. The Rosenbauer Law Office is dedicated to helping you protect what matters most: your family, your assets, and your peace of mind. Nick and the team will guide you through every step of the process, making sure you feel confident and informed along the way. Take the first step toward peace of mind today. Schedule an introductory call by clicking the link in the description of today's show.
This show is for informational purposes only and does not provide any legal advice. Information on this show may not constitute the most up-to-date legal information. Please do not act or refrain from acting based solely on anything you hear on this show. This show does not form any attorney-client relationship with the Rosenbauer Law Office, LLC. Please seek the counsel of a qualified attorney before addressing your own estate planning needs.